Have you ever looked at a case and wondered if the truth is being buried beneath rumors, social media posts, and public outrage? That's exactly what's happening in the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells. For weeks, people have demanded answers. They have questioned investigators. They have questioned local officials. And now, for the first time, the district attorney has publicly addressed the growing controversy surrounding the investigation. But what she said has only fueled even more debate. Before we get into everything that happened, let me know where you're watching from by dropping your city, state, or country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach. And if you enjoy detailed true crime coverage based on publicly available information, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next case. It all began during what was supposed to be a fun 4th of July weekend. 18-year-old Nolan Wells had traveled with a group of friends to Horn Island, one of Mississippi's remote barrier islands. It was the kind of trip many teenagers dream about during the summer: friends, boats, celebrations, and freedom away from home. But before the holiday was over, Nolan had vanished. What started as a missing person search quickly became one of Mississippi's most talked about investigations. Questions spread across social media faster than officials could answer them. People wanted to know how someone could simply disappear from an island surrounded by friends. They wanted to know what everyone on that trip had seen. Most importantly, they wanted to know whether investigators were telling the whole story. As search crews combed the island and nearby waters, investigators began interviewing the people who had been with Nolan that day. According to preliminary information shared by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, witnesses told investigators that Nolan had been drinking heavily with friends before he disappeared. Marine Patrol officers included that information in an internal description circulated as search efforts got underway, providing search teams with Nolan's physical description and other basic details as they looked for any sign of the missing teenager. Those early details immediately shaped public discussion. Some believed alcohol explained everything. Others believed it explained nothing. As the days passed without answers, theories exploded across Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and online forums. Every small detail was examined. Every photograph was analyzed. Every statement from those who had been on the island became the subject of intense speculation. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of calming the public, the silence from officials made many people even more suspicious. Family supporters demanded transparency. Online creators began producing their own timelines. Internet detectives started comparing witness accounts, searching for inconsistencies they believed investigators might have missed. And then, after weeks of growing criticism, the Jackson County District Attorney finally decided it was time to speak publicly. Her message was direct. She insisted that the investigation was being conducted exactly as it should be. She said every step was being handled by the book. But for many people following this heartbreaking case, those words raised almost as many questions as they answered. Because if everything had been done correctly, why were so many people still demanding answers? And what exactly had investigators learned that the public still didn't know? That's where this story begins. The timeline investigators pieced together began on July 4, when Nolan Wells and several friends traveled to Horn Island, a remote barrier island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. The group had reportedly planned to spend the holiday boating, swimming, and celebrating together. At first, everything appeared normal. Friends laughed, took photos, and enjoyed the day like countless other young people celebrating Independence Day. As the afternoon turned into evening, investigators say alcohol became a major factor. Witnesses later told authorities that Nolan had been drinking heavily throughout the day. Exactly how much he consumed has never been publicly confirmed, but multiple witness statements pointed investigators in the same direction. At some point, something changed. The exact sequence of events has been difficult to establish publicly because officials have released only limited details. What is known is that Nolan somehow became separated from the rest of the group. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. Soon, his friends realized they couldn't find him. What started as confusion quickly turned into panic. People began searching the island, calling his name, checking nearby beaches, wooded areas, and places where they believed he might have wandered. Others searched around the boats, hoping he had simply gone somewhere alone, but Nolan was nowhere to be found. As darkness settled over Horn Island, concern grew rapidly. The group contacted authorities, triggering an emergency search unlike anything they had expected when the day began. Marine patrol officers, local law enforcement, and other emergency personnel quickly mobilized. Boats scanned the surrounding waters while search teams moved across the island. Hoping Nolan would respond to their calls. Every passing hour made the situation more urgent. Friends who had expected to return home after a holiday celebration were now watching search crews race against time. No one knew whether Nolan had become lost, whether he had entered the water, or whether something far more serious had happened. As the search continued into the following day, investigators began focusing on the people who had been with Nolan during his final known hours. Each person was interviewed. Investigators wanted to know exactly where everyone had been standing, what conversations had taken place, when Nolan was last seen, and whether anyone had noticed anything unusual before he disappeared. Those interviews formed the foundation of the investigation. According to preliminary information released by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, multiple witnesses consistently reported that Nolan had been drinking heavily before he vanished. Investigators documented those statements while organizing search efforts. But outside the investigation, a very different story was beginning to unfold. Social media exploded. Thousands of people questioned whether every witness had been completely truthful. Some wondered whether important details had been left out. Others believed investigators already knew much more than they were willing to say publicly. Videos analyzing the case spread rapidly across TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms. Every new rumor generated thousands of comments. Some theories suggested an accident. Others suggested foul play. Many had no evidence at all. Nolan's disappearance had become more than a local investigation. It had become a nationwide discussion fueled by speculation, emotion, and unanswered questions. And as the online attention grew, so did the pressure on investigators to explain exactly what they were doing behind the scenes. Weeks after Nolan's disappearance, criticism of the investigation reached a level that could no longer be ignored. Many people accused investigators of moving too slowly. Others questioned why so little information had been released. Supporters of Nolan's family wanted transparency. They believed more public information could help answer lingering questions about what really happened on Horn Island. That growing pressure eventually reached the Jackson County District Attorney. Breaking weeks of public silence, she addressed the investigation directly. Her message was clear. She defended the work of investigators and insisted the case was being handled according to established legal procedures. She emphasized that investigators must follow the evidence, not internet speculation, and that every investigative decision had to be based on facts that could withstand legal scrutiny. She also reminded the public that not every detail gathered during an active investigation can be released immediately. Some information must remain confidential to protect the integrity of the case and any future legal proceedings. While her statement reassured some people, it left others unconvinced. For critics, the response raised another question. If investigators were confident in their work, why did so many people still feel like key pieces of the puzzle were missing? The divide between official statements and public opinion only continued to grow. As of that point, many questions surrounding Nolan Wells' death remained unanswered in the public record. Exactly what happened during his final moments? Was his disappearance simply the result of a tragic accident? Or are there details investigators have chosen not to reveal while the case continues? those questions have kept public attention fixed on the investigation. Officials continue to stress that every lead must be examined carefully, and that conclusions cannot be based on rumors circulating online. For Nolan's loved ones, however, the investigation is about much more than headlines. It is about finding every answer possible. It is about understanding what happened during what should have been an ordinary holiday with friends. And it is about making sure that, whatever the truth may ultimately be, it is supported by evidence rather than speculation. As more official information becomes available, the public will undoubtedly continue following every development in this case. In the next part, we'll examine the latest evidence, the continuing public reaction, and what investigators have said about where the case stands today. Remember, until official findings are released, many questions remain unresolved, and it's important to separate verified facts from online speculation. As investigators continued their work, more documents related to the search began drawing public attention. One of those documents was an email prepared by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources during the initial search effort. It contained Nolan Wells' physical description along with basic information, intended to help search teams identify him as they combed Horn Island and the surrounding waters. The document also noted what witnesses had reportedly told investigators, that Nolan had been drinking heavily before he disappeared. For investigators, this was simply one piece of information among many. For the public, however, it quickly became one of the most debated details in the entire case. Some believed it pointed toward an accidental drowning. Others argued that drinking alone could never fully explain how an 18-year-old vanished while surrounded by friends. As online discussions intensified, every official document was scrutinized. Every sentence was analyzed. Every newly released detail sparked fresh theories. Investigators, meanwhile, continued gathering evidence behind the scenes, reminding the public that one document does not tell the entire story of an active investigation. Still, people wanted answers, and they wanted them now. The district attorney addressed another concern that had spread widely online: the belief that investigators were either ignoring evidence or protecting someone involved. She firmly rejected those claims. According to her, every witness statement was being reviewed, every piece of available evidence was being examined, and investigators were following the facts wherever they led. She emphasized that criminal investigations cannot be conducted based on internet pressure or public opinion. Instead, they require evidence that can be verified and, if necessary, presented in court. Her comments were intended to reassure the public, but on social media, reactions remained deeply divided. Some people praised officials for refusing to rush to conclusions. Others argued that the family deserved more transparency about what investigators had learned. As the debate continued, one thing became clear: this case had become about more than a single investigation. It had become a test of public trust, trust in law enforcement, trust in prosecutors, and trust that the truth would eventually come to light. Whether Nolan Wells' death was the result of a tragic accident, or whether additional facts will emerge, remains a question that only the investigation can answer. For now, officials continue asking the public to rely on verified information rather than speculation circulating online. The loss of an 18-year-old life has left a family grieving and a community searching for answers. As investigators continue their work, many people hope the final conclusions, whatever they may be, will provide clarity and accountability based on evidence. What do you think about everything you've heard in this case? Do you believe investigators are handling the case properly? Or do you think more information should be released to the public? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. And if you've stayed with me until the end, thank you for watching. Don't forget to tell me where you're watching from. I read your comments and love seeing viewers from around the world. If you found this breakdown informative, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates on high-profile true crime cases as new verified information becomes available.